Okay, right. Sorry, we'll try again. Good evening, folks. Thanks for coming down on this lovely, warm January evening. Just about January still, isn't it? Firstly, apologies from Lee. He's decided to go and have people ask questions of him at a quiz show, so you've got the substitute tonight. Just as we open up for questions for Adam, if anybody's got a question, if you can just stick your hand up and our glamorous assistant Steve will come round with the mic, and if you can talk into the mic, please, because as well as us being able to hear it, it's also will be captured on the video that we'll put out on the website so people can hear the questions as well as the answers, I hope. So we'll just throw it open to the floor. First question, and Chris is there straight away.
Okay, the obvious one, discipline. We conceded 4 yellow cards, I understand, on Saturday, and I can't remember the last match in which we didn't concede at least one and possibly more. What can be done about it? Because we're playing an awful lot of the game with fewer men than our opponents.
Good evening. I totally agree with you. Discipline is an issue. Something that we've been discussing literally upstairs just now. Unfortunately, it sits with the players. You know, we work hard in training. We're very hot on them in terms of consequences, and it has to be translated in the game. And I feel that our temperament at the moment in the game isn't right. I feel that we allow pressure, rightly or wrongly, to get to us, and off the back of that, some players, unfortunately, have shown a lack of control, a lack of self-control in key moments of the game. Whether that's through a yellow card, whether that's through piggybacking penalties, whether that's through compounding mistakes, whatever that looks like. And I think, personally, unless we rectify it, we're going to keep seeing results like Saturday, results like Chinner.
Evening, Adam.
Hey, Craig, you okay?
Yeah, not bad, buddy. Start of the season, I think we were talking about nice to carry the squad over from the season before, largely. Keep them all together. And just sticking on that theme of a bit of discipline and a bit of control, they should know each other well enough now to grab each other round the scruff of the neck and say, "Oi, sort yourself out." Well, what's the mood in the camp like? What's the self-control amongst each other, not just the personal liabilities?
Well, actually, just come from a meeting regarding that, Craig, upstairs, believe it or not. So timing's everything, I guess. Look, problem is you're playing a team sport. You've got big characters within the group. You've got other lads who may feel they need to do something, but they don't do something. They allow someone else to do something. And ultimately, what I've just said to the lads upstairs is, you're all good players. You've all got a good rugby pedigree, whether you're young or old, whatever that looks like. You've all got a place within the team, and you all affect the outcome in some description. Now, you can't wait for the captain to take all the responsibility. You have to share the workload. Otherwise, one person can get bogged down with the weight on their shoulders. We have got enough experience within that team, enough good leaders within their own right to share that workload, to help alleviate some of that pressure. You know, and that's what the meeting was just now upstairs. And, you know, it has to see it in training this evening, and we've got to carry it through to the end of the season.
Hi, Adam.
Hey, how you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Cinderford Saturday.
Yep.
We all know what their game's like. So any penalty in our half is going down for a line out and catch and drive. Will we prepare for that? Will we be ready for that? I know it sounds obvious, but we have to be more than ready for that, because that's kind of the only way they score.
I would totally agree with you. I mean, I just did the programme notes for Saturday, and they've probably got the most attritional game plan in the league. You know, it's very old-fashioned, but it's very effective. You know, it's physical, it's direct. They can play, so you can't be lured into a false sense of security. They can play, but their strength is up front. And, you know, we don't have to overthink it. We need to respect them, but ultimately we now need to back ourselves. Performance-related, things that I've just touched on about that mental steely edge, we've got to see it. We know it's going to come because that's what they bring, but ultimately we have to meet it head on. Yes, we have to have our discipline, so no easy entry points into our 22. So we need to really protect that, which is something that we'll speak about tonight out in the training paddock. We did it against Cambridge actually last year at home for 35 minutes. They never even got into our 22 because that was the game plan. We have to deliver that, but for 80 minutes. and then on top of that, we then have to deliver what we want to do in terms of, our starter plays, how we're going to take the field. Against Bishop Stortford, it was so pleasing to see our moves that we'd executed during the week score tries, and it was, and that's the frustration with sport. You see so much good, and then you just see it unravel before your eyes, and there's nothing you can do. And I'm still frustrated from Saturday, as you can see. But look, ultimately, Cinderford, great test. We need to meet it head on while still playing a bit of rugby, and I'm sure the lads will take the field on Saturday and they'll put in that 80-minute performance in that we're looking for.
Hi, Adam.
Evening.
League structure next year, has it been confirmed, and how will that impact Moseley or our lads, as we should say?
League structure, I believe it's 2 down, but we're sat in 8th, and I think it's the highest position we've had for a long time in National 1, which is good, but it could be so much better. I don't think the league structure changes next year. I do believe they are looking to change it for 2024-25, so not next year but the year after. I'm not sure what that looks like. I know the RFU is still talking about it. Apparently they have to rejiggle things every 10 years and it's time to reshape it. I know they are looking to try and reduce the teams in the Championship and Premiership to make it financially more viable. How that then has a knock-on effect to National 1 and National 2, I don't know. I do know that they see National 1 as the top of the community game. Now, if they restructure the Premiership and the Championship, maybe National 1 becomes the 3rd tier of the professional game. I don't know. So all I know is next year it stays the same. The year after, there will be changes.
We've got some questions emailed in from people who can't make it, so I'll throw one in. This one's from Andy Jameson. I wonder if you read the message board on the supporters forum. There seems to be a recurring question that supporters voice and a concern about the amount of kicking the ball away in games. This was particularly evident last Saturday against Stortford, as they gained a bit of momentum, especially when we were down to 14 men in the second half. Why did we continue to box kick possession away? The groan in the crowd was audible.
Thanks, Glenn. Again, it's how the game is unravelling before you, so the pressure that the players feel they're under. You're down to 14 men. Yes, keep hold of the ball. I get that, but ultimately, the second half we never got going. Every element in the second half we backed up with a mistake or a penalty. First half we had 5 penalties against us. Second half 13. So that tells a story straight away. I sometimes feel that, depending on where those kicks were, it may have been more for territory. It may have been for a kick to regather. But ultimately, I back and we back our decision makers. And did we kick too much in the second half? I actually don't think we did. I don't think we had the ball in the second half. So we couldn't hold on for it long enough. We had it in ball in hand, and we turned it over for either holding on or knocking it on. We put our kicks in, and some of our kicks were okay. Some of the kicking wasn't good enough. And again, we go back to the individual accountability, and lads have got to keep improving their skill set. Had we have sat at 24-3 and we were kicking it, this question probably wouldn't have happened. Ultimately, because of the result, it's easy to look for things that aren't there. I thought the first half we were superb. Second half was littered with a lot of things that don't sit with Birmingham Moseley in terms of a brand. So kicking is one of them, but there's many other things you could add to the list.
Adam, I know it sounds like we've only come to one game all season.
No.
But on Saturday we conceded 2 yellow cards and 2 tries, with their lively number 9 tapping and going. Is there anything that we can learn, and can we set up defensively? Can we be professional? Can we be clever in the way that we defend those and be ready for that? Because that was a killer double blow, wasn't it? The tries and the yellow cards.
I totally agree with you. I mean, look, every week we do analysis of the opposition. We always look back over games, and I'll be honest with you, we haven't seen in any footage where the 9 does that. And normally what we have is our 9 with man marking. So I think Matt Marsh did it once through default. We never actually discussed that prior to the game because we never actually saw that in the footage. However, that is something that will be brought in every game moving forward as a default, because we can't afford to have a yellow card due to a professional foul and then still concede a try. You're better off conceding a try and still have 15 players on the pitch. So not only do you lose a man, you still concede a try. So ultimately, that is something that it's an easy fix, and it will be fixed. And to be fair, their 9 was a live wire, and he exploited an opportunity.
There's been a little bit in the press recently about the RFU's reintroduction of the new tackle laws, potentially for the community game down coming our way. What's your thoughts on it?
There's going to be a lot of bad backs, especially with the bigger lads. I think it's something that we're always going to expect, aren't we? So World Rugby have brought this initiative in. It's obviously the different governing bodies have now obviously embraced and brought that process into their actual demeanour in terms of what they're trying to push out to the community game. I feel personally the way that it was communicated to the community game was poor, and I think that's probably why you've seen such a negative spin on it on Twitter. However, ultimately, if that is the way the game needs to go, then that is what will happen, and everybody else will have to adapt accordingly. Do I think it's manageable? Personally speaking, I think the tackle selection is there to protect the tackler, but also the player. I think if you make every tackle below the hips, I think you're then almost pigeonholing what that person's got to do, and it's going to cause a lot of ball carriers to see that opportunity to maybe try and bump the tackler. So look, there's a lot of eventualities out and a lot of talking points. I know there was a specialist giving his overview on it in terms of from a concussion point of view, and obviously that is such a strong talking point within rugby at the moment, and it's something that can't be overlooked, and it has to be at the forefront of everyone's minds for player safety. But if the tackle law comes in, then yeah, like I said, we're going to have to adapt to it. I'm not sure how the referees are going to adapt to it, because on a Saturday afternoon, it's hard enough as it is, let alone trying to now police a new tackle law. But I'm sure they'll do their best, and let's wait for a bit more information from the RFU. And I'm sure it probably won't be as they've said. I'm sure there might be a halfway house. I can't see it being predominantly all below the waist. So there has to be a common sense approach, but let's wait and see.
Any other questions from the floor? Yeah, Mr. Beale's got one.
You set me up here, mate. Yeah, just set me up. I've gone home. I'm not here.
If I look at the last 2 games we've played, we've come out, we've fired up, and we've got ourselves into good leads. And in the second half, the other side seemed more fired up, and we seem to be, crumbling. Yeah, passive. So, what's your answer to that?
Well, we spoke about it at length, and we've floated the idea of coming out just before the 2 minutes before the game starts, and if half time is proving to be an issue for whatever reason, I'm not sure why it's proving to be an issue. That it's short and sharp in there, but there is an option to come out at half time and maybe receive a kick-off, do a starter play, whatever that looks like, just to get all the lads kind of concentrated and tuned into what's going to happen. But ultimately, again, I just think we're overthinking it. The lads have got to take accountability, Bealey. This is National 1, top 48 clubs in the country. We've got to do better than what we are. And I could sit and make excuses, but it has to get better. And the lads know that. And the frustrating thing with sport is, you come off the pitch and the emotion is plain to see, and you get an opportunity to put it right next weekend. And what I don't want to do is get to the end of the season and say that there was 7 or 8 games that we should have won, but we didn't win because half time killed us. We go back to that, discussion that we've had about mental resilience, getting your own house in order. That's all we can do. Lads have got to be more accountable for themselves. They've got to get revved up, come out, start again 0-0, and go and win the second half. And if we do that, because we've gone in at half time in the lead, we're going to win the game. We've got to stop being passive. We've got to stop waiting for the opposition to then come to us. A lot of it's an easy fix. A lot of it is mentality, and the lads have got to address it.
Played the game at high level, and at high level, you don't need somebody to start talking to you about raise your game and all be a bit harder and blah blah blah. You don't need that, because you arrive and it's all self. But as you go down the leagues, I think maybe that sort of disappears a little bit from the psyche.
I think a lot of it as well is self-learned, isn't it? So you find yourself in a position like if you said to the lads on Saturday, you're going to go out and have a first half like you're going to put together against Bishop Stortford. I doubt if anyone probably would have believed you, because that was a really flawless performance. But then the challenge is, as we've seen in many games, various levels, international, whatever, can you then be steely enough mentally and emotionally to then come out and go again? And that's, as you said, that is the big challenge. And some of these lads haven't played any higher than National 1. So again, it's a learned behaviour. Can you learn to make sure that you come in at half time if you're in the lead? Because it's the polar opposite, isn't it? Because when you're losing, it's easy. Or when you've lost a game, the reaction on the Tuesday is easy, because you just prod them, because everyone's hurting from that emotional feeling. But when you're winning, sit back, I'll relax, and that is something that maybe has crept in. Like I said, I don't think we need to overthink it. I think the lads need to be given the opportunity to go out there and put it right. And I think regardless of the result against Cinderford, if we can go out there and put an 80-minute performance together that everyone associated with the club can say, do you know what, the boys couldn't have done any more, I think that in itself is a big step forward. Because what we don't want to do is yo-yo, put a good 40 minutes together and then a poor 40 minutes together, because that is it's not sustainable. Because eventually you'll fall off the cliff, and it's not worth thinking about where we'll end up. So as I said, we got a great opportunity this week. No better opposition could be coming to Moseley at the weekend, because we're going to have to front up, not just for 1 minute but for 80 minutes.
So Matt Wielden emailed. He told me to be kind to you because he likes you. So, and then he's asked this question: how have we ended up in January looking over our shoulders at a decreasing gap between us and the relegation spots again? Maybe I don't need to be worried, but I am worried. Is it players, management, coaching, injuries, bad luck, lack of cash? What is it?
It's performance. I mean, look. Prior to Christmas, we went 4 games unbeaten. As I said, the frustration is Chinner we should have won, Bishop Stortford we should have won. So the games we should win, we need to win. And then there is no talking point. We've got 10 games left. We're sat in 8th. We're not sat in 10th or 12th or 14th. We're sat above mid-table. No, we're not. We're sat mid-table. So I'm just working my maths out. It's been a long day. We're sat mid-table, and look, there's 10 games left. We've got to play 3 teams below us, 7 teams above us. Yeah, Leeds and Taunton at home, Darlington away, Hull away. Reality is we've got to walk the walk. It's easy to sit around talking about stuff. That we just got to get on and do it. We get paid to do a job. Let's do our job, and let's finish at a good level within National 1, and then we can build on that with them for next year. But there's no need to panic.
Great. I'll throw one in from Andy Jameson, which sort of follows on for it. We've had a number of players arrive, play a few games, and in one case won, and then disappear on loans. Clearly injuries have taken their toll, but some of these were known before the start of the season. Is this more a feature of the fact our recruitment policy needs reviewing, as we seem to struggle with strength in depth?
Not at all. I'm not sure what players he's referring to. Obviously, Rhys Thomas came in. Max Island smashed his thumb. He couldn't help that. He was out for 8 weeks, 12 weeks, I think he was. He's got a metal plate in there. You know, I will only ever bring players in if we need respite. You know, I firmly back and support and believe in every single player within our group. Simple as that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. Some lads need a little bit longer. Some lads don't kick on as quickly as you think, but that's sport. You know, I've played at, you know, various clubs and whatever, and you see that right through the squad. You know, and sometimes a player on the periphery will end up being the player that starts, and the player that's deemed to be the superstar ends up being on the bench or not involved. You know, it happens. For me personally, we haven't used anywhere near as many players as we did last year. I mean, Suhair Banu, you know, fractured his vertebrae in his neck. I mean, that's you know, Pat Zindi, spiral fracture of the tibia and fibula. You know, again, it's just injuries that you can't account for. But ultimately, you know, lads are coming back slowly from injury. Will Safe will hopefully, fingers crossed, be available for Darlington. He's training really well. We just need to get him past regarding his strength testing for his knee. But like ultimately, like I said, it's a collision sport, and you know, think about Plymouth last year. They played every game with 17 players because, you know, and also, you know, I will be honest, the demise of Worcester and Wasps, unfortunately, which is obviously very sad, has impacted us. You know, Greg, Ricky, Finn Brown, Alfie Ball, all these players that potentially would have been with us, you know, aren't with us. And those EAPs, for example, Bishop Stortford at the weekend had 3 Saracens players playing for them. You know, so you know, if you go through all of National One, you go through it with a fine tooth comb, you will see that players dip in and dip out all the time with these squads. I try not to do that. We try not to do that because we want continuity within the group. I don't think it's right.
I did look at it. I was being a bit of an anorak. I mean, over 90% of the appearances so far this season have come from sort of 28 core signed players. So we're not relying on people parachuting in and out with the squad. Just as a little one on that, you mentioned Wasp and Worcester. We announced the signing of Jack Forsyth a couple of weeks ago. What's the situation with Jack? Are we going to see him anytime soon in the squad?
Yeah, no, he's Jack's ready to go. He tweaked his hammy. Probably shouldn't be so fast, should he? He tweaked his hamstring, and what's a hamstring? I don't know. Yeah, he tweaked his hamstring, but he's fine. He's back into full training out there now. So, you know, competition for places in the back row is massive, and you know, it's good to see so many lads vying for, you know, 3 positions effectively.
Brilliant. Did you have a question, Chris?
Yeah, well, it kind of touches on the long-term injured. We had heard from Ellie that several long-term injured players were basically fit to be selected, and you mentioned Will Safe, and he's possibly going to be available for Darlington. Max Ayling, you said he's got a plate.
Max is back, yeah. So right, Max played 80 minutes last weekend for Starbridge.
Okay.
Came through the game really well, so he's back out there training tonight. So
Silvio Bano, I think, was the other one she mentioned.
Sue's going to be out for a bit more time.
Okay.
The problem is when you fracture a vertebrae, it's not like a finger.
No,
it's
no, you don't want to rush that one.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
How's Morgan doing?
Morgan's making good progress. He potentially could be fit by the end of March. Potentially. Don't want to put any pressure on him because, again, he's got to get himself right.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't, then he risks re-injury in that area. Kalis Hutchinson. We've got a 9-month review. I think it's next month actually. Yeah. He's great. He's not on crutches. He's actually in the gym now doing stuff.
Right.
We just need to just scope out what that looks like for him moving forward. You know, Kalis was a big loss without a doubt, but you know, and so was Morgan. You know, and it'd be great to have both those players back at some stage.
Yeah.
Back in a Moseley shirt.
Yeah, fine.
Any more from the floor?
Well, I was just going to ask. We had a couple of knocks on Saturday. I know Creed. He's probably out for a couple of weeks, I think, isn't he?
21 days, so he misses Saturday. Then we've got a week where there's no rugby, so he's back for Darlington. So he only misses the one game, which is good.
And Harry hobbled off. Is he on the mend?
He's got. I think he's got to go for a scan. So I mean, there was no break. So, but I think it's ligament damage. Just got to determine how bad that is. What does it look like, and what's the rehab time?
question myself, if you don't mind. So we have a good following on social media, on all the platforms, and I think generally everybody's very supportive of what the club's doing that. But we do occasionally get the odd negative comment. How does that sort of affect you and the team? What's the sort of feeling with when you see something like that doesn't quite seem fair, perhaps?
I personally, I think everyone's got an opinion, haven't they? You know, whether it's negative, positive, you know, it's just an opinion. I think if you're a paying spectator, you have a right to voice, you know, your thoughts. Sometimes it would be good probably to get all the information first, but ultimately, you know, we've all been there when we, you know, press that send button probably before we probably could think it through. But ultimately, I've got no issues with anything. You know, as I always say, I'm available here on a Tuesday and Thursday. If anybody ever wants to have a chat, come and have a chat. You know, I'm an open book. I've got nothing to hide. Our 3 core values within the group is about being humble, honest, and hardworking. You know, we try and embrace that from the top down. And like I said, I'm always here, and you know, people can, you know, make whatever comments they want. You know, we're a tight knit group. We believe in what we're about. We've got good self belief, and as we've already spoken about early on in the proceedings this evening about certain elements that we've got to tweak and tweak quickly, which we will do. And I'm quietly confident with where we're at, and you know, I'm pretty sure if people weren't happy, then I would certainly know from above. And you know, at the moment, everything seems okay.
You got a question over there, Steve? Okay.
Evening, Adam. I've been watching on the television the teams in high division, well, the Premier Division really, and they seem to be concentrating a lot on getting the ruck speed down. Do we work on that? The reason I'm thinking this is we kick the ball away. If we were rucking more, but getting a quicker ruck speed, getting the opposition on the back foot, making the odd yard or two. The All Blacks have been doing it for years, haven't they? I mean, is it something we work on? Because it doesn't seem to be happening.
No, we do. We work on both sides of the football, actually. So our ball and their ball. So our ball, we look for 2 seconds speed of ruck as a minimum, and for the opposition, we look anywhere between 4 to 5 seconds, and we actually stat that up during the week. And you know, you're absolutely right. If you want to play quickly, you've got to get quick ball. We do a lot of work out there about presenting the same way. So I don't know if you ever see in a game if somebody turns back into the traffic, it really slows that ruck down because it becomes congested. So if you're playing left to right, you need to go with the flow, present the same way. That way you don't have to commit as many numbers, the ball is there to be played, and it kind of goes with the flow. So it is something that we work on. I thought we worked on it. I thought the first half on Saturday really demonstrated that. I thought the second half on Saturday, conversely, probably highlighted how we went away from what we should have been doing, rightly or wrongly. And you know, there was an instant, we had a line out towards the end of the game, they're 22, we carried round the corner, we turned back in, they turned us over. They then got a penalty which they kicked down here to then, I think it was to draw level. So ultimately, you're absolutely right, ruck speed is important, and we do work on it, like I say, both sides of the ball.
Another one there, Craig.
So looking towards the end of the season, trying to be a bit more positive. It's been a bit dull tonight.
Cheers, Craig.
What we got? 8-10 games left.
10 games. Yeah.
You're going to have a target on that, I guess. Well, you always want to win them all, I know, but what would you consider to be a successful position by the end of the season? And what will you look at it and think? Relegation is obviously a nightmare, but even if you're above relegation but still low, what's your cut-off point? And thinking that one good.
Do you know, this I'm not copping out the question. I don't think of that. What I think about is performance, because you know, ultimately we've got to go and get that performance every week. You know, had we have got the 80-minute performance against Chinner, we'd have won. Had we got the 80 minutes performance against Bishop Stortford, we'd have won. Instead of collecting 10 points in the last 2 games, we collected 5. So Cinderford, we've got to get the performance. Now that might mean we come out with 5 points. It might mean we come out with 2 points because the opposition on the day are just a little bit better than you. But we have to get points from every game. You know, we can't allow games to get away from us. We can't unravel in games. And if we can just embrace that for the next 10 games, regardless of result, think performance, think 80 minutes, you know, we're going to win a lot more games than we lose. You know, and we've got some notable fixtures away from home where we're going to have to be right on our mettle, and we've got some games at home where we've got to make sure we win. You know, we've got Rams coming to us, Taunton, Leeds, Cinderford this weekend. We are good at home. You know, the crowd get behind us. You know, this is a great place to play. You know, like I said, you know, we need to, as I mentioned, we need to stop talking about it, and the lads have got to action it, and I know they will. I know this group, they will go and do it. So.
Ask another one, if I may, then. I mean, you've rightly pointed out we've still got a job to do this season. As a director of rugby, though, when do your thoughts start turning towards, you know, the squad for next season, building it? Is it something that you wait till we really pretty much got this season out of the way, or is it something you're always thinking about long term? You know, what you're going to be looking for to build a type of squad for the future?
I'm always thinking about it. I always start the process back in November. I know that sounds crazy, but you have to think long term. You have to keep thinking well ahead of yourself. You know, we've already plotted out what next pre-season looks like. We've already plotted out what the first 6 weeks of next season looks like in terms of training. So, you know, yes, things change, but ultimately you have to start planning 3 months ago. There's no point doing it now or next month, you know, and there's a lot of positive conversations going around with current players within the squad, other players who may want to try and come in, which would be great. And ultimately, you know, we've got to keep trying to make sure that we keep hold of the quality that we have, but underpin it with more experience in certain areas, and that will drive performance. And I go back to my original point that I always make: the best environments are those which are fiercely competitive. You know, iron sharpens iron. It's as simple as that. If a player thinks he's got the free reign of the shirt, regardless of how he plays, that in itself is catastrophic. You know, we want all these lads here chomping at the bit to play, and they know that if they don't perform, they won't get selected. If they don't get selected, they don't play. You know, and so, yeah, retention and recruitment is already well underway.
Some more on the floor?
Well, I was just going to say, hopefully we can have more than one pre-season game this season, next season. Yeah, and also
it'll probably be the wettest August on month, Steve. So
yeah. No, you got to pick somewhere where we can go, which is nice. We can have a good few beers and a nice bite to eat.
Gibraltar. Or
yeah, somewhere like that.
I'm assuming we've got.
What's that?
Okay. This is a bit more
Up there.
up there.
Got it.
So okay. First of all, how do you think the New England coach is going to do? And then secondly, how do you think England are going to do against Scotland?
I think Steve will do a great job. He's he's a great player. Well, was a great player. Fierce competitor. Loved the line out, and mate, he's definitely the right man for the job. I think what he's doing with Leicester to help them rediscover that bite that they lost, you know, he did it in such a short period of time. And I think it's like with anything though, the success of one person isn't always down to that individual. I think a clever person puts good people around them. You know, if you're going to be successful, you have to have good people around you who you can lean on, who are accountable for what they do. And you know, if you look at the coaches and the staff that he's brought in, he's very clever. You know, they're all fantastic leaders, coaches, motivators in their own right, and it makes his job a lot easier. And I think he'll do a great job. Do I think it'll be turbulent for him potentially? I don't think it'll go all England's way in the Six Nations, but I think the one thing you'll see from him is that that steely edge that we've spoken about this evening. So no, I think England will go well, but I think Steve will do a great job personally.
Just going to follow that one up, because this time last year at one of these Q&As, we asked you what your prediction was for the winners of the Six Nations, and I'll just remind you, you said Ireland. You said Ireland. So I want to know, who are you going to jinx tonight and tell us going to win it?
Wales, there we are. I'd probably stick with Ireland or France. Ireland or France. I think those two are probably the best two. And obviously, look, England will be there or thereabouts, but Ireland or France for me, mainly because their seasoned campaigners in terms of their squad is settled. Everything is settled within the group, and you have to say, if you look at the Leinster's form within the European Cup, it's absolutely sensational. And obviously the French, well, they've got the World Cup coming, so they'll be wanting to make a statement. So I think those two teams will be the two teams to beat, personally.
Let's go for the double World Cup wins.
Ireland to win the Six Nations, France to win the World Cup. There you go.
You heard it here first, folks. Any more questions for anybody? No? Well, I think we can just show our appreciation to Adam for giving up his time and being so honest with his great answers. And thank you to everybody who came along and the questions you posed. Hopefully you found it informative and interesting, and we'll arrange another one fairly soon.